I just look at. Oh, there you go. I don't know. We can just jump right into everything.
Sure. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't trying to put a gun to anybody's head, but yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
we can do
yeah. I
that.
guess Luke usually has places to go. So after this,
In at number 81, it's the interview of its day.
is it?
Mm.
Oh, it was the no, wait, which one's the one with the I always get it confused.
You're thinking of the right one. You're thinking of the one where James Franco goes to
Yeah,
North
yeah.
Korea, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's the interview.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I,
Which has
I
anyone seen?
think no.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a yeah.
All
Luke?
right.
So
No, I
Mark says
haven't.
nobody's seen. I disagree because I've seen.
No. I didn't. I wasn't saying nobody's seen. What was I saying? I was saying no. I haven't seen it.
Okay. So Mike's seen it. There's Mike. Hi, Mike. You're the guest today. Mike Richards from Mission Log. Let's give the guest the first introduction today for Films and Filth.
Great idea.
That's a camp podcast. Matt's here, sweatily doing an introduction. Mark
Yeah,
said
Luke's
his name.
here.
Yeah, I think everyone's name was already said anyway.
Unconfidently doing an introduction.
Very confident of you.
I'm sweaty and unconfident. I'm just the everybody.
I just checked to
I
make sure my heater wasn't on. Okay, it's off.
I think Kim Jong Un did not like the interview, and I think that Hitler liked this. That's my theory.
Okay.
We know he
all
watched
I've
it
ever heard
twice.
is the Hitler, like, yeah, he like wanted to watch it alone or something, and then went into a quiet room and didn't come out.
Yeah, I think he liked it.
And then
Well, he
hit the
loves,
piano.
not that
he
it's
loves
like
Chaplin, right?
Yeah, I think so. I hate being like, well, it's warm and fuzzy that Hitler liked this. It's ridiculous.
Anyway, it's a great dictator, great dick, as I like to call it for short.
When I was going
Yeah.
through my edgy teenage phase, I did used to have one of Hitler's paintings on my wall, so I could be like, you know who painted that? Hitler. Makes you think.
Was it an original?
No, I printed it off Google Images.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, somebody's in that collecting picadillo, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, by the way, Luke's a millionaire. We didn't tell anybody
Yeah.
that on this podcast.
Oh no, I'm not anymore because I blew it on a Hitler painting.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. I mean, I know the value of art goes up when somebody reportedly dies. Is there a market for Hitler originals?
I'm
Like,
I
sure
like
reckon
honestly,
they're probably worth a lot of money.
I mean, you can get like Nazi memorabilia and stuff. I mean, what you don't see much of is this double cross stuff from this movie.
Mm.
When I was
Yeah.
looking at all the double cross stuff, you know what it was making me think of?
What? Because it was almost
Metal
making me think of
Slug.
something.
Oh yeah, metal.
Okay.
Where
Slug
they
when
have like
they have
the
X
not
flag.
quite Nazi images.
Yes,
Because, you know.
yeah.
Yeah, as the not quite gamer guy, even okay, I'm making a hit there. Maybe that is what I was like trying to recall when seeing the movie.
Yeah, there's no way I didn't make you play Metal Slug at some point, Matt. If you hadn't
Oh,
played it
I've played plenty of that on my own.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we should talk a little bit about how we encountered this movie. Maybe this is the first time for everyone. I've seen it at least once because around 2000 they put out really nice versions of the Gold Rush, say late modern times, this Limelight, and maybe something else. Maybe Limelight was the last one actually. But yeah, I watched it at least once. Although, when I'm like, I want to see a Chaplin film, I usually go for the previous two because they're. This is an interesting one. I feel well. Okay, first let's talk about where is this your first time?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Luke. I'm going to.
This is my second time watching
Oh,
this.
it's the second there. Okay, that's cool.
There was a Charlie Chaplin based Pokemon. And when I did the episode about him, I watched this movie and included a bit of the speech at the end of my episode.
Okay, cool. Mike, how was this choice for you?
Enjoyed it immensely. First time, although I had seen the speech before, just in individual clip form.
Yeah, my quick review watching it is like most of the movie, it's pretty well made. Of course, it's got the weird like bifurcated plot thing with Chaplin as two characters.
Mhm.
But then I'm like, oh well, people came out of the theater thinking this is great because of the speech at the end, right? Otherwise, I don't know if it's quite up to where it's for me. I don't know. It didn't have the entertainment value of the last two for me personally.
Just a second. I want to confirm this with Luke that Mr. Mime turns into Mr. Rhyme, and that's the Charlie Chaplin Pokemon.
Yeah, only the Galarian Mr. Mime, but yes, those are the Pokemon I'm talking about.
Wow, that was like a whole nother language. Okay.
It's you know what else is a
Well, I
made
know
up
Mr.
language
Mime
is
because I saw
everything in
I
that
saw the
Hitler says in this movie.
yeah, I saw Detective Pokemon, so I do know Mr. Mime
Yeah.
at least.
So the taglines from this,
I say
the
Detective
comedy
Pokemon.
masterpiece.
Right?
Chaplin talks ... while you laugh. His greatest comedy since Shoulder Arms and the Gold Rush. He talks. The world will be laughing again, and once again the whole world laughs.
It is interesting that this is where Chaplin talks, since his last two movies were made in the sound era, and he does sing in one of them, right? So he was really, I guess, because he was unlike Buster Keaton, who we were talking about a few months ago. Chaplin was a good businessman, so he was still able to do this. It was his political views that got him, booted out of the country in the end.
Well, and the grooming thing. I don't know. It depends on how you view an 18-year-old, but yeah, that was definitely sort of a thing where he made himself a little vulnerable to his enemies.
That doesn't help. Yes.
But I mean, he started a whole studio, even though that didn't work out as well. If you want to have your brain completely explode and melt, read a history of United Artists, because that that company was basically bought, sold, traded, renamed, dissolved. Other things were named United Artists. Most recently, something that Amazon owns was named United Artists and released Creed 3 and then folded back into Amazon. So
yeah, it is kind of just a prestige thing to stick on your movie if you can afford it now,
Yeah, which is I don't know, that's like 10 layers of irony, I think.
It is basically where MGM is at this point too, I believe.
He did help basically destroy the studio system. There was a court decision. See, there is so much to read about this whole dense layer cake of a topic that I skimmed a lot of it.
See, I just assumed you'd do that. That's why after watching A Great Dictator, I put on B-52's videos last night instead.
That's a good move. I mean, it's really interesting that in a few weeks we'll be talking about Paths of Glory, which is sort of floating around, sort of tangentially related to the end of the Blacklist, and this is tangentially related to the beginning of the Blacklist, or at least, Charlie Chaplin was one of the first targets of it, and he just sort of got kind of low-key deported or not allowed to come back in 52.
Right.
But that's jumping way ahead to after this movie was made. We're talking about this movie. The structure of this is really weird. I put in my notes that these guys were going to switch places at the beginning of my notes, and it happened in the last 10 minutes of the movie.
Right.
And then there's the speech, and then he gains the power of telepathy to speak to his girlfriend telepathically.
He's a magical man.
Was she not just listening to a radio?
Oh yeah, maybe.
Well, it's the RCC Clark rule, right? Any sufficiently technology is magic. It's magic.
She was in Osterlich, right? Osterlich just got invaded, so you got to know what's going on. Everybody's got the radio on.
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot radios existed. Luke, would you take this speech over the Independence Day speech?
No. This speech is legitimately respected, so it's not as funny to bring it out in formal situations as doing the Independence Day speech.
We will not go quietly into the night.
Mm-hmm. Don't get started.
Yeah, don't test Luke. He's got the whole thing memorized.
He'll do it. This speech is a lot more inexplicable and feels tacked on, which is exactly what happened. It was tacked on by Chaplin after France was invaded. He was sort of like, "Oh, I need to turn this up a little bit." That was. I don't know how I feel about that as an ending, but it's a great speech, and people probably needed to hear it, especially because it wasn't cool to hate Hitler when this was in production, which is crazy. But really, England said they would ban this film when it was finished, and by the time it was finished, they were at war with Germany. So that's wild.
Weird production history. Hey, Luke, can you tell us a quick story on this one?
Sure. In the wake of losing a world war, the country of Tomania has fallen under the double cross and the fascist regime of Hinkle. Hinkle is keen to go to war, trying to strike deals with rich financiers and later a fellow dictator. Meanwhile, a Jewish barber, who saved a heroic commander in the war, leaves military hospital and returns to the ghetto, where he just wants a quiet life with his new lady love Hannah. The regime won't allow the Jews a quiet life, and as he's forced to flee on the eve of war, the barber inadvertently swaps places with Hinkle and finds himself giving a speech to the world, denouncing hate and dictators, promoting love and freedom.
All right, there we go.
Right.
How, how deep is everyone's Chaplin? Of course, you see shorts on in the background. I think the shorts, I have the memory of the Electric Company sketches. Mark, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm pretty casual Chaplin enjoyer. I've spent more time with Marx Brothers and maybe even Three Stooges.
Yeah, I've seen like his movies, but I haven't seen a lot of the shorts. Like I said, I think I'm actually conflating it with the lady who did it in the late 70s in the Electric Company. But
Hmm.
I guess
I've seen a bit of his silent stuff. I guess I'm more of a Keaton fan. But like I don't have deep Chaplin knowledge to the point that I was really surprised to learn that this was his first talking role.
Yeah,
it's kind of
14
weird.
years after the first talkie. He waited a long time for this.
Because
Yeah,
I saw
again,
a comment on I watched this film on archive.org, and one of
Me
the
too.
top comments was like, "Oh, I heard that Chaplin talked in a film, and this must be it." And I was like, "That can't be correct. He must have talked in others before this." But no,
he sang.
yeah.
There was some scene. Let's think City
Hmm.
Lights in modern times, they do have soundtracks, like a very curated soundtracks of sound effects and music. It's just nobody talks.
Mm.
Well, it was interesting to me. There were a couple of scenes, like the scene where he's like cutting Hannah's hair. She's doing all the talking and he's doing none of it. And then there are a
Mm.
lot of scenes where he's Hinkle and he's doing all the talking and nobody else is talking. So it is like a rhythmically unusual film. I don't want to say it it's it wasn't like an off-putting thing, but it was noticeably the rhythm was weird to me.
Mike, what's your general Chaplin temperature?
I have an appreciative temperature. Warm is how I would describe it. Just somewhat inexperienced. I've seen Chaplin films over the course of my life. I probably couldn't um speak intelligently about any of them. Just kind of watching old movies when they were on, mostly the silent ones. And I think I'm right there with Mark and being more of a Marx Brothers and Stooges if we're lumping those in together with Chaplin. Always thought of him more as an expert in physical comedy and physical acting, and as a silent movie icon. I think that would go hand in hand. So I was surprised when I first found out about this film, which was probably sometime in the last 10 years or so, when all the dictator talk and, neo-fascism stuff started to come back into vogue. So, just, voice and cadence and stuff I found to be very interesting. And I don't think I've had an opportunity to chat about the mid-Atlantic accent with somebody that came from the other side of the Atlantic like I have to tonight. Is that so? I guess the idea is that that would be passable as either an American or as a UK or British accent. I
think that was
found
the
it to be,
idea, but it doesn't sound like anyone.
That's
yeah.
the thing. Is I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say to me it sounded perfectly, congruent with something that you might hear in New England or, among, the affluent or the rich, stereotypical folks from movies of that days. I
Yeah, it
didn't know
just sounds
what.
like movie voice to me.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
Matt
he
and I
certainly
had
wasn't one
this.
of those guys whose career, like, tumbled because of the talkies. I mean, he'd started on
Yeah.
vaudeville anyway. He was, like Keaton, both of them were actually quite good at verbal comedy. They just, grew up in the silent era. So
I don't think I'd ever seen him talk in a film before, and I was like, his voice is really beautiful. I don't know how else to say it. He's a great talker. I mean, not just the speech at the end, but overall, it was like really fun to hear him. Well, it's fun to hear him use English and fake German. But
The fake German reminded me of like that's the same shtick the Minions are doing to this day.
Wait, that wasn't real German? I'm just kidding.
But yeah,
yeah,
that stuff was really funny.
Yep.
The
yeah, well,
translation of it was great too.
I think maybe the block I've always had like with this particular movie is I'm thinking of so many other movies while watching it. Like I made Mark and Luke watch Duck Soup a few years ago, and I sent Mike a
Well,
clip of at least a tune of that. Maybe I'll even put that as a bonus with this because it kind of makes
And
sense.
Matt, after we chatted, I had seen that before, and I think I can blame our the hosts of Mission Log for being responsible for that. I think there was an episode where Ken brought it up, or maybe Ken and John. So I made a point to watch it a few years ago. So I had seen that before and watched a little bit more about it today. But yes, I can see why you connected those dots.
And
Yeah.
was talking to Three Stooges, Mo Howard also plays a Hitler in You Nazi. It's like a mix of Nazi and
Nasty.
nasty,
Yeah.
Nasty.
nasty
NAZTI.
spy. And
Yeah.
Chaplin's is more thought out and like more like controlled. I like Mo's better because it's just unhinged insanity.
Yeah,
Like
those are good.
you go ahead.
I was gonna say if there's any glaring flaw in this film, it's just that I wanted to see Charlie Chaplin do Hitler the entire time, and because I laughed, but I was like, I know inside of my brain that the film cannot be that. Like that would not work.
Well, yeah, that's why the Three Stooges one is what 15 minutes long, right? So
That makes
you
sense.
could have Mo do that the entire time.
Yeah.
And then there's films made later. It also made me think of the barber character made me think a lot about Peter Sellers and Being There, just kind of like this weird, like cipher drifty guy. Of course, he does get a little more personality as the movie goes on, whereas the whole point is Peter Sellers' character, Chauncey Gardner, never does.
You know who he reminded me of?
Who's that?
Rowdy Roddy Piper in They Live.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Like never
Yeah,
given a name, just shows up.
Mm. I mean,
Yeah.
we do get his history because we get the war scene at the beginning, but
Hmm.
yeah. And then of course it's one, there's only like two scenes in the concentration camp. One looks, I guess we didn't know they were having like the Holocaust, but
Nope.
we certainly knew about the
Nope.
concentration camps in 1940.
Chaplin said if he knew about what the Holocaust was like, then he would not have made this.
So then I'm thinking of Life is Beautiful, Oscar-winning Life is Beautiful, and then thinking, gee, this film has aged a lot better than Life is Beautiful. Somehow. I guess
I haven't seen Zone of Interest yet, but I am interested in seeing it.
So the concentration camp scene, I thought, well, that doesn't look so bad. I mean, their depiction of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was the first thing I thought of, is like, did they have any idea what was going on in these things? No. Chaplin even said that. The film that made me think of, though, was Things to Come. And I know there's not a lot in common with it. It just sort of made me think of that, kind of extrapolating out, okay, starting with World War I, we know there's another one coming. How long is this next one going to last? Turns out that one lasted pretty near forever. But there was also pretty, kind of an aviator at the heart of that film as well. Like there was Schultz in this movie. So that's probably the extent of the similarities, but it did cross my mind.
Well, it's really weird how, I don't know, brilliant, how this was so ahead of the curve that it's basically, this movie is being made when World War II is basically picking up. So
Yeah, I didn't make the Things to Come connection because this movie got it so correct, it didn't occur to me it was speculative.
Yeah. And the only thing gets wrong is that I guess Hitler and Mussolini didn't really turn on each other all that much, even though that's definitely something that probably would have happened if they'd done well enough.
I think Mussolini,
I don't know.
just didn't. Mussolini wasn't successful enough to
Yeah.
mess with anyone.
Mm-hmm. That is an entirely reasonable prediction to make, though. So part of the origin of this movie apparently was Chaplin seeing Triumph of the Will with, there was a French director with him, and the French director was really, I didn't take his name down, unfortunately. He was really upset and worried about what that meant, and Chaplin laughed through the entire thing. So he decided that was part of what made him decide to make Great Dictator. And also, apparently Nazis put out some kind of pamphlet calling him like a Jewish clown or something like that. Chaplin was not Jewish.
I spent 10 minutes
know.
researching that last night, actually.
Yeah.
Which he said, he had a really good quote about that, which I think I wrote down. Oh, I do. When asked if he was Jewish, Chaplin responded, "I do not have that honor."
Oh, that's a good quote.
That's a good quote.
And right above that was just knowing that Chaplin. I mean, obviously they got old school, toxic makeup on his face. So I was like, well, Chaplin aged pretty well at this point. He's what, 51 in this movie, and I'm
Yes.
used to watching Twilight Zone episodes where they're 35 years old and they look 70.
I think Chaplin was just an incredibly attractive person. That's why he's a movie star. I mean, look at Paulette Goddard, who is his wife in real life at the time they made this, even though the marriage fell apart pretty soon. She's incredibly hot. They're both just like insanely gorgeous people.
Well, I mean, did she start growing a beard after he shaved her? Because they say that happens, and maybe that's why they split up.
Apparently he wanted her to clean the entire set as sort of a payback for getting her this role, and she refused. And
Clean the set, like
Huh.
with a
Oh, I thought
broom.
you were going to say he wanted her to
something.
clean the set as like a sort of a kink thing.
No, I don't think. I think this was a pretty dysfunctional marriage at this point, and
Like he was a little bit of a freak, you know?
yeah. Well, apparently he was, according to legend, he was trying to save the marriage, but it just wasn't working out. And then
I jokingly wrote, was Chaplin one of Hollywood's greatest stickmen, which was a nickname applied to Burgess Meredith for sleeping all across Hollywood. And then
Oh.
I looked deeper, and it turned out that Goodhart's next husband was Burgess Meredith.
You can put that in the Eskimo Brother database, the EBDB.
wow.
So
He just
I-
shows up on set and he's like, "You're a bum, Chaplin." A
Yeah.
bum. That's like way out of timeline.
Also, that's the best nickname ever.
Yeah. Yeah,
I did.
I've
There
never
were some
heard that before.
close-up shots on Chaplin's face, and I was like, "Oh, it really makes sense they got Downey Jr. to play him."
Yes, I had that
Yeah.
They
thought
do
several
actually
times.
look a lot alike.
It is funny now. Downey Jr.'s older. Like, well, he could do it again if he wanted to. And do old.
Yeah.
He should film new scenes as Chaplin, edit them with the old movie, and have a like biopic that actually has proper aging for once. Outside, what the Up series? I guess that has it in Boyhood.
Well, I didn't see Chaplin, but it's really funny that was, I think, considered one of his first like serious films. I mean, Downey Jr. and then he just won an Oscar for being like on the other side, like being a blacklist prosecution guy.
Yep.
No,
Well,
I guess that's what those are the two roles.
I guess that's what actors have to do. They have to take on different roles sometimes.
You either get blacklisted or you live long enough to be a blacklister.
Right. They
I
say you get
finally watched
conservative as you get
Oppenheimer,
older.
by the way, Mark.
Oh yeah,
And yeah, we were correct. Godzilla should have won Best Picture.
yeah.
Oppenheimer
Yeah.
should have won Best Effects.
Well, it was pretty watchable for a 3.5 hour movie.
It
so
was
there's that.
watchable, but
Yeah.
well,
It
basically
wasn't.
there was a 2-hour great film about the Manhattan Project
Yeah.
with an unnecessary half an hour either side to make it Oppenheimer.
Yeah, it was
Right.
a lot of the stuff at the end felt tacked on just specifically to make him like a persecuted guy.
Well, I've read since it's because it's adapted from a book, and it sounds like Nolan included every single page of that book.
I read the first
Okay.
50 pages, and that's about accurate. And to the point where I was like, well, I just watched the movie. I guess I don't really need to read this book right now. I could wait a little while.
Yeah, I'm not dying to see Oppenheimer again, like on any level. If somebody said, "Hey, come over to my house and watch Godzilla -1" right now," even though I've seen it twice, I'd be like, "Yeah, sure, let's."
I
do
would
it."
hang up this call right now to watch Godzilla -1.
I was looking forward to the Godzilla -1 minus color release, but it was only very limited release in the States. I don't know if
I
that
didn't
was
watch it
shown
here.
over where you guys are.
Missed it because I've been broke, and the easiest way to save money is just wait to see things at home all the time.
Yeah.
But I do want to see Godzilla plus Kong. Wait, X Kong?
Times.
Godzilla
X Kong. Everything's an
Yeah.
X now.
Godzilla multiplied by Kong. Yes, I want to
Yeah,
see
because
that.
it's a team up. That's the symbol that you use for
Yeah.
that the kids are using for team up these days.
Godzilla cross Kong if it was in Japan. That's, Street Fighter cross Tekken. Anyway, now we're getting way into the weeds.
It's okay. I will turn every podcast we do into a Godzilla podcast. You can't stop me.
Yeah, who would win, Godzilla or the entire army of what?
Godzilla
Tomania,
or Oppenheimer
Godzilla, or the both of these armies in this film?
or
Godzilla.
Hinkle. What
Yeah.
Godzilla versus Hinkle? They have that. Was it Oh no, I'm thinking of Godzilla versus Bambi, but you could do that with a Hitler too, and it would be
Sure,
funny.
just put Hitler in there instead of Bambi, and he just
Yes.
steps on. That'd be great.
Yes.
I'd watch it.
I've often said Hitler and Bambi are pretty much the same.
I mean, yeah, they were damaged.
So, what do you think of or maybe what's your favorite comedy bit in this? I guess him bouncing a globe around for only 30 seconds is the most famous bit. I thought that was going to go on for like 14 minutes or something for some reason.
That bit was amusing, like conceptually, but I wasn't necessarily belly laughing at it.
No, I'm just saying that's the kind of the signifier for this film. If you're watching a Hollywood retrospective, that's the clip they'll show.
Yeah.
Was it only, how long did you say that clip was?
It wasn't that long. He
it's
only
like-
bounced the ball
Okay.
around for like 30 seconds.
It felt like a while.
It
That's
sure
why.
did. Yeah.
I put in my notes that scene looked better than any CGI I've ever seen. It's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is a great case for just letting somebody just do something neat.
Maybe
with
it's
a
because you
physical
guys
object.
just watched and you're like, why is this still going on? Whereas I watched it last time and had imprinted in my head he bounces the ball around for 14 minutes. So then when it wasn't that long, it felt short.
Because I'm more on the 14-minute part page right now.
Okay.
I got to watch it again.
I think that's how I got there, actually.
I mean, the thing about it is that I tried to take notes, and it's so hard to take notes about a comedy film because I just find myself just saying writing down all the jokes. So I have
But it's
to
also
stop.
hard to take notes from a visual comedy movie because you don't take your eyes off it.
Yeah, that too.
Actually, in terms of comedy, I think the funniest stuff was the World War I stuff at the start.
Yeah, that was great.
He was
definitely gonna
just
mention
doing
that.
pure Chaplin. Like the upside down plane, that was great.
I like the plane. I like the spinning bomb when he went to the bomb didn't go off. Let's go investigate. No.
And
First
you
of
go
all,
straight-
no.
You go straight from that into the first Hinkle speech, which was also brilliant.
I just found something funny. The redirect on Wikipedia from Adenoid Hinkle is to Adolf Hitler.
Nice.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
You think
It's
that-
the same guy.
Oh my God. I forgot about the two character thing. So just for 5 minutes, I was like, oh, the nice army guy turned out to be a monster. just for like 3 minutes.
I feel like that this movie easily could have worked with that.
Isn't
like
that
it-
kind of like Hitler's rise? He was just like an army schlub that turned into Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
If this was made years after World War II was over, then yeah, the barber stuff wouldn't be in there. That's like the barber stuff is social commentary that people needed to hear in 1940. Luke, is English mustard really that hot?
It's kind of hot.
Okay.
It's not like wasabi or anything.
Okay, yeah, I always think of hot mustard as like specifically called hot mustard. I'd never heard it called English mustard. That might be a different thing. It's
Mark,
hot
if you do
mustard
make that
kinda
trip
has-
to Orlando, you can go to the Hot Dog Hall of Fame where you can sample 10 different kinds of mustard at their mustard station.
It's
Sure.
pretty hot. I'd imagine it's hotter than you would like on your strawberries.
Yeah. Even though, well, I don't know. I'd try a little bit.
You would try a little bit
hot.
mustard on a strawberry?
If it was hot, yeah. Why not? That sounds weird. Sounds umami.
That was, but yeah, classy mustard packaging. I did like
Oh,
that.
sorry. Just then, as I was looking for a funny section, I was sort of scrubbing through the film on my phone. And it goes from like, there's the comedy war part, there's the big comedy speech, then there's the sort of bonking on the head, escaping the stormtroopers. Then he's getting lynched.
Yeah.
That's true.
The tonal shifts in this film are kind of wild, but I think it works because it is sort of showing the ridiculousness of fascists while at the same time they are still doing pretty heinous stuff.
It's kind of maybe a great idea to load so much of the fascist wacky jokes at the end instead of, you feel like that this would be, compare this to Inglourious Bastards, which the four of us talked about, where it's definitely a rhythm of you don't spend too long with any specific characters, including the titular Inglourious Bastards. Where this, you spend like a kind of a lot of time with the barber, and then you spend a lot of time with Hinkle and Italian fake Mussolini. I didn't think
Fake
his name was.
Mussolini got a supporting actor nom for this movie, by the way.
That's right. Chaplin didn't win anything, and he was kind of hurt.
Did he win anything for his last two movies? That's the ones he should have won for. Okay, but yeah, I was like noting, hey, I actually kind of like Jack Oakey. Okay,
Right.
playing
I've heard the name.
Macaroni. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
Macaroni.
Benzini Napoloni.
So good. Okay,
and then there's the
got it.
advisor garbage. I thought that was good.
Yeah. Never
You
stop
know,
laughing at garbage.
the comedy stuff, his Henkel's inventor had a couple of moments. The parachute, the bulletproof clothing.
One of
Oh,
my favorite very quick gags is like, I'm gonna now put a token of my appreciation on him, and I knew it was gonna pan over and he was gonna be covered in medals. That's correct. And he's like trying to find space to fit this last one on.
Oh yeah, then he pulls all of them off while
He gives him a
screaming to
literal
German. That was
dressing
really
down.
good. That was
Yep,
really
yep.
good.
Literal
That
dressing
might be my favorite. I put it down where at one point he shows up and just says, "We've just discovered the most delightful poison gas. It will kill everyone." It's great.
And the physical comedy of Charlie Chaplin as the barber spitting out the four or five coins, I thought was funny.
Was great too.
That coin section was great because it, in the middle of a scene that was actually quite dramatic, that gag came very naturally, where they're all like trying to hide the fact that they've got the coin happening. That was done really well.
Yeah, I guess it's just the tonal shift. You start talking about the bits, and like, the bits are all good, but yeah, I guess maybe because there's so much dramatic weight between the bits, and then we have the two characters. It's just you
I think
feel a
that
little
one
off balance.
That one worked especially well because the bit came so naturally from the dramatic moment.
Yeah, because sometimes like, am I supposed to be laughing now?
Yeah, there was one or two moments where something like very serious was happening, and then he does like a silly pratfall or something, and I'm like, okay.
It's a comedy. Other people on screen, Maurice Moscovich had some screen presence and died this same year. That was the old guy. So if he looked like he was on Death's Door with you, he was.
He didn't look that old.
No, actually, he didn't look that old. I was kind of surprised to see that he kicked off in 1940.
I mean, is he the one who had Magneto vibes?
Yes, I later wrote down, I guess I like him because I like McClellan.
So it's fun. I thought that same exact thing, and there was even a like a Jason Alexander-esque guy talking to him at one point. I'm like, if we remake this today, I've got cast members in mind.
Although it's a pretty unremakeable movie, it is fascinating that this movie can only be made at this one moment in time like this, you know?
I mean, they probably could have made it within a couple of decades after this, but you know,
because
I mean, we've had Hitler,
you know?
we've had Hitler comedies, right? I mean, since then, am I crazy?
No, I'm not saying
the producers, I would say.
Yeah, I'm not saying it could only be made this time because it would be offensive at a different time. I'm just saying this exact mixture of tones is only possible at this moment in time.
I mean, the obvious successor to me is just from about 10 years ago. There was a horror film that was like 3 or 4 different shorts within it, but the standout was called The Diary of Anne Frankenstein, and it was basically that Anne Frank's family was descended from Frankenstein, and then Hitler busts into their hiding place and shoots all of them, and then makes a Frankenstein. And everyone is speaking real German except the guy who plays Hitler, who is like a very tall. He's like 6'7" or something, and he's just screaming ridiculous things. And I'd highly recommend finding that on YouTube because it's really funny. But
I still haven't gotten around to watching Jojo Rabbit. Does that fit the right space?
No, it's much better than. I mean, it's much funnier than that.
Mark, would that be a 2011 film called Chillerama?
Yes. Yes. Hitler is. God, who's Hitler played by? I feel like it. Damn it.
Joel David Moore.
Hitler? Right, Joel David Moore. I know I've seen him in something before, but it was just sort of a thing where and yeah, the one of the Jasons plays Frankenstein, but he's like the Jewish Frankenstein, of course. Anyway, it's funny.
Frankenstein.
Yes, Frankenstein.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, how did we all think of Hinkle was trying to get his funding from Epstein?
Oh yes, I have
Oh,
several
God.
island
Oh,
notes
yeah.
on here.
Yeah, I think everybody noticed that.
That has aged insanely.
Yeah,
Oh, that
well,
guy
it
was in
works so
Avatar.
much better now, doesn't it?
I-
Now there's
I'm
like
just
a whole other
glad-
layer.
I was wondering if maybe you didn't have to visit Epstein Island to get his funding.
He's on the list for
Never
sure.
came to that.
He's on the list. He's on the flight logs multiple times. But yeah, that's why I'm like, wow, that's a case where this is actually aged better because it like actually makes it funnier.
Yeah, he used evil Thule magic to live for another 100 years or 80 years. I mean, wasn't that what he was sort of trying to do on the island, was like live forever? Wasn't that part of Epstein's entire thing, like his
Well,
plan?
there's 87 theories and all of them are wrong, most likely.
Oh, okay. I didn't look too far into it because it's horrible and I don't want to think about it.
But yeah, I've heard there's like weird Egyptian architecture around on
Yeah.
the
I
island.
saw a picture of it, and it's a place where I would immediately want to leave if I was there. It's
Honestly, if I had my
terrifying.
own island, I might build weird Egyptian stuff, maybe for a different purpose. But yeah.
I mean, I would go mid-century, like space station vibes.
Oh yeah,
all
I'm
the
not
way.
saying it would be my number one, but I could understand like without horrible things coming into play, how you might make your island a weird Egyptian place if you felt like it.
Yeah, okay. That is not an immediate indicator of guilt. Having like
So
an
Mark, are you
Egyptian
saying you
island.
haven't downloaded Epstein on Steam?
I have not. No.
I mean, don't.
Okay. I did. I
It's
downloaded.
just a crap asset flip island survival game, but also with a bunch of inappropriate Epstein humor.
I downloaded Sex with Stalin. It was not very fun, but it was. I don't know. It wasn't very fun.
Me and Mercy
So he wasn't
still
good at it?
regularly quote the meme we saw, but it was a picture of Stalin when he was young and obviously pretty hot.
Mhm.
And the top comment underneath was, "Gulag, gulag, gulag" is just the sound of that cock hitting the back of my throat.
Yeah, that's kind of funnier than anything I found in Sex with Stalin, but visual novels, gotta love them.
Any other things you guys got? Like, I'm just kind of scrolling around my notes and seeing if there's anything that I wrote that actually makes sense that's worth saying. I don't know if I
Well-
trust this barber after 20 years in a sanitarium with a straight razor on my face, but whatever.
This film
I'm
was
always
banned.
amazed when I see in old films that people used to let the barber shave them like that.
I've been straight razor
Yeah.
shaven at a barber.
Mm.
Actually, no, the one I do it now. They do it around like the back of your ears and get rid of that part. But yeah, they straight razor it.
I mean, I just shave my entire head with a Gillette in the shower, so
Right.
I use a safety razor, which is sort of like one step away from a straight razor, but I also have cut myself a lot. And sometimes I'll just leave the house, and then 2 hours later I look at myself in the car mirror and there's just like scabs. I'm like, damn it.
I just buy
The one
novelty
time-
razors. I showed you guys my JoJo razor, which is the next one after my
Whoa.
Kometsu razors are finally finished.
I have
Nice.
Evangelion razors. But I
Oh,
did
man.
buy the cheap, like, supermarket own brand ones once. And the blood was just pouring down my head and I looked like Kratos.
Oh god. Oh man. Well, this film was banned in Spain until 1975, which was not as long as Paths of Glory was banned.
Baned. It was baned too.
Banned.
They had
Banned
banned for this
in
movie.
Spain.
Oh, you think this movie is your ally?
Yeah, it's weird. I don't see, this is one where like sometimes you watch a movie and I'm like, okay, even Paths of Glory, like I see why it was banned in France, right? For a while.
Mm.
It shouldn't have been, but I see this one, I'm like, I don't get it.
I could
Well,
see why
there's-
it would be banned in Germany, but that's about it.
Yeah. I could see that. And
I think
Italy.
it's the speech, dude. The speech at the end. is like I think a dictator sees that, even though it feels innocuous by today's standards. I think that any dictator would just see that and be like, nah, I'm just gonna be on the safe side and say no to this.
But even not a dictator, like just the military-industrial complex, I don't think was a fan of that.
Yeah.
It was very communist adjacent for people of that time.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was,
and
I was about to be like, oh, I'll just read the speech on air, and then I looked at it. I was like, oh no, I'm not. It's the first quote on IMDb's Great Dictator page. If anybody wants to refresh themselves or
Yeah, it's a long one.
yeah.
It is good. That's why I was like, maybe I'll read some. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, it was longer than I remember.
Wait, was that your
Yeah,
reason
it's
for
like-
saying no,
it's-
Matt? Because it's too long.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's like the full last 5 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could visually show you, maybe if you can see that screen, which you can't.
No, you're
you
just
can.
holding up a bright white light.
Yeah, I realize that as on my screen. But yeah, just trust me, it's long.
Podcasting. Yeah, this was one of I reading up on trivia before I finished watching the film. I knew that's how the film ended and was dreading it, but it did work pretty well because it was just that good of a speech. I think that I feel like most comedians deep down want to do something really meaningful, and it's hard. It's sort of like it's hard. Comedy is hard. Being a comedian and then sort of translating that to drama is also hard.
I mean,
Especially
and
if
we've-
you are just
we've-
way in front like that.
We've seen Jim Carrey make attempts. We saw Robin Williams make attempts. I mean, name somebody who's a prolific, cinematic comedian, and I think at some point they take a stab at, a more dramatic role.
Sometimes, and a lot of them don't. I don't know. I think like Adam Sandler just done a fantastic job at that. Maybe a better job at that than in comedy, which is funny.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But I don't think that he's even trying to make comedy sometimes. I think he's just like, hey, everybody good.
No, it's just some
Hawaii
sort of
vacation.
tax break with him and his friends, right?
Yeah, which I can't hate on at all. That's great.
Oh,
Good
I
for
got
him.
the utmost respect for that racket.
See, I on the speech though. Sorry, get back to that. I feel
Yeah.
like that's one of the biggest character breaks in film history. Like I just assume that is Chaplin talking to me now, not this barber. Although
Yep.
he does say that Hannah stuff at the Hannah. Excuse me, I gotta say it not like my daughter's name, Hannah.
Anna.
It doesn't. Sorry, I got myself distracted by that. Anyway, he does that at the end. That's obviously the Jewish barber. But the rest of the time, I'm like, okay, Chaplin is just talking to me now.
Well, I mean, maybe he was sort of talking to his wife, like, please don't divorce me.
Mm.
Hey,
Please clean the studio.
well, I want to go into more detail that I didn't take down, which is that, okay, they were living in Switzerland and had no contact and spotted each other at a cafe and had lunch together. It was their last meeting. Oh, well, that was the 60s. Anyway, that's the details.
That's like the ending of The Dark Knight Rises.
Yep.
Shut up. I think it's a Paul Simon song.
Or you've agreed to meet at a cafe. I can't do it.
No,
as good as
Luke's
Luke.
much better at
Yeah, it's all right.
it. See, I'm not even gonna try mine because I know it's not as good already. Yeah.
Well, Henry Kissinger was alive at this point, and he probably talked like that,
Like
didn't
Bane?
he? Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. Well, he had to wear the mask, I guess.
Maybe he did. I'm sure he wore a mask in some of his like sex crimes. I'll just go ahead and whatever. Allegedly.
Did you listen to the game show, Mark, where everyone just resorted to accusing random gaming executives of being nonces?
Yeah, that was great. Was that the one where it was like, wait, was that the recent one where you're like, why should these people be punched?
Yeah.
Well,
And
I was
everyone
kind of disappointed. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Everyone gave up on giving me real facts and just like, yeah, he's probably a nonce.
Yeah, that's right. I was kind of disappointed that nobody suggested punching Randy Pitchford because he was a magician.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Sorry, that I'm getting that glazed over look, aren't I?
So this one is one of those films where it's like, there's absolutely no mystery to me why this is on the good list.
yep.
Because the only people who will have watched it are the sort of people who would give it a 10-star review.
I got 3 1-stars here.
Oh, I'm sure they're out there. Yeah. But like a lot of the films on our good list are there because they don't really bother anyone. Like, yeah, as we always bring up, that's why Shawshank is our number one. Whereas this film is in the school of like, no, yeah, this like the people who go out of their way to watch a film like this probably consider it a masterpiece.
I think it's got a lot to offer. It's kind of like a shotgun in that it offers it kind of all over the place, but the comedy is kind of unimpeachable, and I don't find any of the stuff that's not comedy objectionable, even though I don't know, maybe if I was a fascist, I would be bothered by this. I'm not even sure. I feel like a lot of modern fascists would probably tell themselves, he's not talking about me.
Yeah,
Chaplin would hate Antifa.
I guess with our
Antifa are the real fascists.
Yeah, exactly.
with our films or filth edict, I'm like I guess I'm kind of going to allude to what you said. Like to me, yeah, of course it's film, but it's like little canisters of film scattered around the room, and you have to like gather them and put them together.
I mean, I'd rather rewatch Duck Soup, but
Oh
this
yeah,
is still very that's the thing. Duck Soup sort of is the let's just follow the dictators the whole time and do wacky evil stuff. That's
Yes,
that's
yes.
like chaotic evil, and this is somewhat some lawful evil, and then some like chaotic good, I guess.
I guess that's why the flaw of this one, not flaw, but just it directly bats up toe to toe with Duck Soup and doesn't, it loses for me.
Yeah,
But
I think most unless unless you are really tickled by the Hitler impression just that
I
much.
think I did enjoy this more than Duck Soup.
okay,
Maybe my tastes have just changed. It's been a few years, but I remember feeling like I was sitting through Duck Soup in a way that I didn't feel with this, where I was like, I was watching this and enjoying it start to finish.
Interesting. Well,
I
there you
guess that's
go.
just where you're a Marx Brothers obsessor or not, because it's not uncommon for me to put one on YouTube on my iPad next to my bed when I'm going to sleep, that sort of thing. So,
That's just it. Is that like I was saying, Duck Soup is chaotic evil. I don't think Luke is very chaotic evil. I think he's like lawful good or lawful neutral, depending on what day it is.
I see myself as pretty chaotic.
Well, you have your cat. I just that shirt
I
sucks.
choose chaos.
That shirt sucks because
Chaotica.
I could say I'm chaotic. I could say I'm chaotic evil or chaotic neutral, but then
I like to think of myself as chaotic good.
I'm very orderly sometimes and very anal. So then I don't know.
I can never remember the different divisions long enough to choose one.
There you go. Chaotic.
Confused.
Chaotic
Anarchist.
confused.
Chaotic
it's
entropist.
it's exactly like the Myers-Briggs test. It's just as much bullshit as that.
Yeah.
The alignment chart. But yeah, but I understand. I can definitely see how someone would like this more than Duck Soup. It's just it's sort of a different vibe and a different thing, and it's meticulously crafted, this film.
But also, I think Chaplin's brand of physical comedy is ageless in a way that actual spoken comedy can age a lot more.
Makes sense.
Like, there's not actually that many quote unquote jokes in this. The joke is just that he's doing a silly German voice or a bunch of physical comedy. Whereas the Marx Brothers stuff has a lot more like jokes and quips, which maybe, your mileage can vary a lot more on those.
Yeah, there are references in there that date, but one for me, the Marx Brothers kind of their thing is, wow, it's like almost 100 years later now, and like it still sticks for, I guess, Mark and myself, but maybe not for everybody.
Nothing. I don't think anybody. You're not going to find anything from 100 years prior that everyone can agree on. Period. So it's like, somebody might be listening to this and they're like, I tried watching both of these movies. I can't stand them, and I'm sure that's very.
They don't got no color in them.
I wouldn't judge that person either, really.
Yeah. I mean,
like,
I've met
if you spoke to me 10, 15 years ago, I don't think I'd have sat through either of those films.
Yeah. I mean, I used to work with this guy who was from Indonesia, and he was just like, I like long movies. I don't like movies that are less than 3 hours long. He's like, he's like, I like Transformers. I like Avatar. I don't like movies less than 3 hours. So it's like,
to get his money's worth. You gotta respect that.
A lot of the international market. That's why the Indian movies are very long and things like that. It's, indie movies are long because people want to go to the movie theater and spend a decent amount of time at the movie theater. That's a cultural thing that we don't really understand here. I mean,
I'm
And
so excited now when a film is 90 minutes.
me too.
Yeah,
I-
an hour and 40, I think, is the sweet spot.
I mean, do you guys feel like this, The Great Dictator at 2 hours could have been a little shorter?
Oh, I don't necessarily. I wouldn't know what to cut because I think it was all gold. But yeah, it could have been shorter.
There was a little pacing. I liked the scenes, like Matt said, the kind of individual cans of film you had to gather to watch this film. I think I liked them all. I mean, I was surprised a movie from 1940 wasn't 2 hours and 6 minutes long myself. I mean, I'm not the cinephile that a lot of other people are, but that struck me as being long. I mean, when I grew up watching black and white old movies on TV, they usually crammed them into a 90-minute time slot. Now I don't know what kind of hack job they had to do that, but they did it. So I was surprised to see that on this one. But I do think that at the time, even now in different places, I mean, there's a large percentage of the world that has democratically elected authoritarian leaders, over the last 10 or 15 years, which is surprising, and surprising how it starts and then surprising how it ends, I think, to a lot of people. And I mean, this movie, it did shed a light on that, at a time where I think a lot of people were shying away from the reality of the situation.
Well,
Yeah.
studying history and living through history are two different things, and living through it, I guess, usually teaches a stronger lesson, and then you start screaming out the dumb kids out there,
Well,
right?
it does and it doesn't. The whole thing, history is written by the victors. They can't write it till they won, right? I mean,
Right.
and think about how clueless a lot of people are right now at what we're going through. Not to target anyone specifically, but I was handed one of those things, when sometimes Facebook has one of those dumb generic posts where someone asks a question at a radio station and everyone answers it, and it said, what comedian do you just not find funny? And someone I knew commented on it, so it showed me that. So I sort of scrolled through and I saw a lot of people say Kathy Griffin, and a lot of people just straight up shared the photo of Kathy Griffin holding the fake Trump head up. So it's like basically a group of people that are very shrill and loud about cancel culture, being like, how dare this woman hold this effigy up of this, guy who literally encouraged people to storm the Capitol of the United States.
Yeah, the only people who actually engage in cancel culture are the same people who complain about cancel culture.
Yes, and that's starting to become more and more obvious to a lot of people, but not everyone. And a lot of people who are participating in that kind of discourse are just totally oblivious to just everything. I mean, if you complain about cancel culture and then cancel people, then you don't know what you're, chances are you don't know what you're doing.
The amount of, what's the word, like the amount of dissonance people have room for in their heads, it always surprises me.
Confirmation bias?
No, like
Oh,
people can genuinely believe two completely contradictory things and not notice so easily.
Yeah. I think dissonance sounds about right. I do know. Yeah, there is a term for that. There isn't there. Just to go back to Mike's link thing. That sounds bad. I just picked
buddy.
up this. I just picked up this set of Gary Cooper films. 30s leading man, and none of them break 2 hours. One of them goes an hour 54. Beau Guest is an hour 54. So yeah, I was just curious because these were like in the 30s. These were like the high prestige films, right? He's your DiCaprio at the time or whatever. So,
I mean, I was going to bring up that Metropolis was originally 2.5 hours, and I think Birth of a Nation was 3 hours or something.
Ooh,
I've never
baby.
watched.
In America, Metropolis was cut to 90, like from the get go.
So
Americans,
I feel like
couldn't
there's
deal
a
with 2 hour
lesson there.
movies.
Americans can only deal with 2 hours, but the 2 hour movies have to be about Germany.
It took 80 years. It took 80 years to make Metropolis 3 hours.
Did we ever get a running time on A Nation's Pride from Inglourious Bastards? Did we find that out?
Well, if you want to judge that by the film that's on IMDb that was made at the time, I think 17 minutes.
Okay. Good to know.
Birth of a Nation is 3 hours and 15 minutes, and is it at
How about
6.1?
Intolerance? How about Intolerance, his follow-up film?
Intolerance.
It has an intolerable length.
That sounds intolerable. Thank you. Yes.
That's where they built the giant Babylon sets that may or may not still be in LA. They were there for many years as a tourist attraction. I mean, I've never been to LA, so I don't know. But
Matt, you watched Mank. Doesn't Mank go into a lot of the Chaplin stuff that happened after the downfall or the fallout from this film?
I think I told you I started Mank.
Oh, my
Well,
bad.
And
my
then
shame is the only film I've ever seen about the life of Charlie Chaplin is Shanghai Nights.
a fun movie.
Well, Intolerance is 2 hours and 43 minutes, and
Oh, it's not quite as long as I thought. Okay.
Oh, it's a 7.7. People like it, kinda.
Yeah, that's when Griffin was like, "Wow, even in the teens, I look like a horrible racist. I better do something completely different."
Wow. Well, good for
It's like,
him.
oh crap! I jump started the KKK. I better make something to try and make up for that.
Wonder what he's doing now.
Spinning in his grave. I don't know.
Burning in hell.
There's only,
Okay. Well,
like I said, there's only 3 1-stars here, so I guess I'll just read them all. Terrible. None of them are that great. I guess I'll just barrel through. Terrible. That the film is well-meaning does not make it any good. It's simply dreadful. Chaplin is awful as Hitler.
really?
They were looking for a, accurate portrayal, not this comedy nonsense.
Yeah, it's not a downfall performance, that's for sure. 6 out of 34 found that helpful.
Let's bring back the downfall meme, but let's put subtitles on Charlie Chaplin's rants.
Yeah, sure. Just insupportable, and then parenthesis lowercase dad. I don't know what that means. Okay. Sure, the project is honorable and courageous to kick dictators and alert about the oppressed, but a movie is not a political work, but an artistic one. Honestly, I tried to watch it, but after 20 minutes of unfunny jokes, heavy pantomimes, and silly grimaces, I had enough. The production looks cheap, or the sets are really badly built. The scenes are tedious, endless, so that's not really my kind of fun. And it really discourages me of watching any Charlotte film after that. For the same subject, prefer the comic Mouse. Well, you should read Mouse. Okay, I'll give that out. 12 out of 64 found that helpful. I like Charlotte written in there.
Charlotte.
I think they meant Charlie and it came out. Or Chaplin. or maybe they started writing Charlie and finished writing Chaplin.
He's credited in this as Charles Chaplin.
Yes.
Was he always Charles Chaplin, or is that because this is a serious film?
I am not. He's credited.
The poster has him as Charlie. I mean, the one sheet.
Okay, I've got the answer here. It's after modern times. He transitioned to Charles.
Okay.
After modern times in 1936. So,
but not necessarily on the posters because your marketing, you still want to put it out there. Charlie Chaplin, right?
I'm gonna say probably Charlie Chaplin Carnival. He was credited as Charlie Chaplin. Oh, I see the poster for Great Dictator still says Charlie Chaplin. I don't know how these things work.
One more 1-star, so let's read them all.
Monsieur Vidu. What's our guy?
What's Vidu?
Monsieur Vidu. He was Charles Chaplin on the poster, and that was something along the lines of he bought something from Orson Welles about a French murderer and made a comedy out of it.
Yeah, that's kind of
Wells
the least Chaplin of the Chaplin films, I think. And then Limelight after that, which has it has Keaton in it, but it's kind of like you don't get him on screen as much as one would hope for. Like together.
I kind of want to see this. A suave but cynical man supports his family by marrying and murdering rich women for their money, but the job has some occupational hazards. That sounds fun.
I watched it once. I remember it being a way to spend 90 minutes or so.
All right.
Not, I mean, as in not a terrible one, but didn't blow me away.
The poster says Chaplin changes. Can you?
Ooh.
He changes into a murderer. Is that what happens? I think that was in the middle of him having a really bad PR time, actually.
The last 1-star here is Downer. It is supposed to be such a great movie, but I didn't like it. There is no humor that appeals. It is all too weak. The only good thing about it was the speech the Jewish barber made in the end. 6 out of 45 found that helpful, but I contend that was not the Jewish barber making the speech. That was personal stuff on there.
Because that was Charlie Chaplin making the speach.
I'm going to be that. Chaplin. That was straight up Chaplin talking directly to the camera. That's for me what makes it. That conceit is what makes me accept it on the list of good movies, I guess. Like
it wouldn't make any sense for the Jewish barber to have written all that speech inside of his head while he was being ferried around in a limo.
Especially with the confession that I've never done public speaking in my life. I can't. Like, if there was any, like, even if you didn't intentionally include that scene and just let us wonder if maybe this barber was a master orator, then it wouldn't be so incongruent with what he just said 30 seconds before that. Then again, I still think great speech. I'm giving it a pass.
I mean, you can look at it as a superhero movie. He just found that speech somewhere, inside of his, maybe he found a radioactive rock.
Everyone's got one
Yeah.
great speech in him. Like,
So
everyone's
it's
got a good book in them.
well, orphan, wanderer, warrior, orator. Got it. It's good.
Hey,
do it.
Luke, I guess this is more a question for you because sometimes we've hit stuff and I say they're pushing the button too hard, and you say, but they need to push the button that hard. For me,
Yeah.
this is a case of pushing the button as hard as you can, and it's legit.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Like, this was not the time for subtlety.
Yeah, I'm just saying this is a case where I'm like, yeah, they're pushing it way too hard, but it works. So
Yeah, I'm often suspicious of people who accuse something of being on the nose, because on the nose is where you're supposed to aim.
I often have the same problem and also feel like that.
I think when people criticize a message for being too on the nose, it's because they're the ones that this is a cautionary tale about. Like, they're
Maybe.
feeling picked on.
It's sometimes just, even if something is on the nose, you don't want to be reminded a lot that it's on the nose. And there's a way to do it where you're not necessarily. And I think even this doesn't necessarily make me think about, if he was looking directly at the camera and said, "You audience viewing this film, The Great Dictator," that would be bad.
I could have lived with that, to be honest.
I did not need that. That's bad. We didn't get into the thing where Chaplin was actually born 4 days before Hitler. That's a really weird coincidence.
Just like Paul McCartney and Brian Wilson. They're born 2 days apart.
Huh. But Hitler was born on 4/20, and that's where he got all of his power.
Ah, okay. Blazing.
Man. They must have had a smoking room at that hospital.
Yeah.
Well, I'll lay out the carpet for any final thoughts on The Great Dictator.
If you're listening to this and you haven't watched it because you weren't sure you're gonna like it, give it a shot. It's funny.
If you're listening to this and you encounter a Nazi, punch them in the face. On the nose, in fact.
And that is also funny. And you know what else is funny is Kathy Griffin holding Donald Trump's severed head.
I mean, I'm willing to admit that she might not have been funny, but it's not because she was going after Trump. It's just because, I don't find a lot of American comedians funny.
I don't think she's the funniest person, but I think, how would you guys feel about this movie if it was just Charlie Chaplin holding Hitler's head, bloody severed head at the end?
Well,
that'd be pretty funny,
Bastards,
right?
wouldn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
I can't tell you if Kathy Griffin is funny. She goes into the box with Jimmy Fallon, of people that I met when I was doing the university union gig. So I took them to lunch or something, but I've actually never watched their comedy.
Was she nice to you at least?
Yeah, she was cool. Yeah. I mean, I could tell Bill Maher was not, by the way.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well.
And Greg Louganis. Greg
Louganis.
He was on our wall of shame. We had a secret wall of shame in the back closet, and Bill Maher and Greg Louganis were on it for people that visited the university and sucked. And Medeski, Martin, and Wood's managers, they sucked.
Huh.
Well, I'm going to stick up for Bill Maher real quick. I had about a 30-minute conversation with him one night. I thought he was excellent. Very friendly and approachable. Different night, different mood, different circumstances.
Being at university, dumb kids circling you, change your thing a little bit, I guess. So
yeah.
Although he is pretty aggressive with people in Club Random sometimes. If you ever see that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if this movie was Kathy Griffin holding Bill Maher's severed head, I'd probably still laugh.
That would be surprising.
Or if it was Kathy Griffin in Inglourious Bastards, and somebody said, "You will be canceled for this," and she went, "Nah, probably just chewed out. I've been chewed out before."
I think that actually has cost her a lot of work. I like loud women though, so good for her. I think she's at least pretty cool.
Lorraine Bracco and Medicine Man. Can you handle that much loud woman?
Haven't seen it. Is it on the list?
No.
Then I'll never watch it.
It's definitely on the good list, and it's not bad enough to be on the bad list. It's like a 5.0 easy.
I mean,
4.5. It's slightly worse than that.
Something about Lorraine Bracco says in my head that this is an attractive person. Oh yeah, she's pretty.
She's great
Oh,
in
yeah.
Goodfellas. She's in what's it called? The Sopranos. She's great in those. She's just terrible in Medicine Man.
There's like 8 different photos of her and Sean Connery looking like they're just about to start banging right away in the IMDb page.
The movie does not have that chemistry.
Oh, okay. Well, weird.
And both of them are
Oh,
miscast
man.
horribly in that movie.
There's a poster in some other language that says Mato Grosso. I guess
Ooh.
that's Italian. Mato, and it has the two of them standing next to each other looking like they're gonna have sex.
Anyway, Medicine Man, a movie I'm not recommending. Okay.
That's my birthday choice this year. Medicine. No, it's not.
Mike, if you got a final thought, you can throw that out, or I know you've got your Orville news coming up. So
Yeah, just I mean, it kind of reminds me a little bit of why the Packlids made such a horrible villain in Lower Decks, or such a formidable villain. They're buffoons, but they're buffoons that are kind of all pointed in the right direction, and that makes them dangerous. And this kind of cartoonish look at Nazism, dressed in kind of an incompetent casing that it was, is still dangerous and should not be taken lightly. So that's kind of where I land on it, why I think it's a good film. Yeah, the Orville, we just our contact at the Orville asked us to leak that season 4 has been greenlit as long as we didn't use their
What?
name. So we shared that on social media the other day.
Shit.
And yeah, so it's I think it'll be just this was not part of that conversation. That conversation was just, yeah, go ahead if you guys want to go ahead and announce that it's greenlit, just don't use my name. We felt confident that the source was high enough in the organization that we could do that. And then just talking to other people tangentially involved, they were like, it's probably still going to be the better part of a pretty good period of time before they're back in the studio. So just with the backlog of work after the strikes and things like that. But yeah, that's kind of where it stands right now. So Jessica and I are planning on cutting 8 supplemental episodes just called Talking Ted. And that's hopefully when people Google TED Talks, they'll find us and click on it. And we'll dig into that series a little bit because there's about 5 cast members or so, 5 regular cast members. I'd say 4 regular cast members from the Orville, 1 recurring guest, 1 one-time guest, and then also the great Tim Russ appears on both the Orville and Ted. So, and I think he's probably just cool. So we got him on the list of people we want to talk to. Have a designer cocktail and chat about the show. That's probably all I can say for now, but more on that when and if we do actually end up cutting those and releasing them, which hopefully will be about the time this gets released.
Awesome. Well, I don't know. Can I say congratulations to you for the Orville being renewed?
I mean, it was probably
Yeah,
not. I mean, I was flattered that, we were the ones that were asked to leak it. So I think,
Nice.
I'll take congratulations for that.
And that's cool. You get to be spies, sort of.
Yeah. And only that, but yeah, you can, find our, patreon.com/mission log is where you can find us, or at mission log the Orville, ML_the Orville. It's pretty much on all our handles, and you can catch us on any of the podcatchers. And if when season 4 does drop, you can always go back and listen to the older episodes of Mission Log the Orville on the Roddenberry Podcast Network.
Nice.
As for us for Films and Filth, if you want to support us on Patreon or at Podcastius, talk about the Twilight Zone at Time Enough Podcast. Everyone in this Zoom call has done that. Podcast 1999, where Mark and I talk about Space 1999, and Mike's been around for a couple of those. And meanwhile, Luke loves Pokemon. We brought that up earlier. Hyrule Field Report and the game show also mentioned in this podcast. It's a weird rotating crystal of intersecting podcasts sometimes, I guess.
It's called a network.
It's called a
It's a
network.
network.
It's a network.
We're networking.
Podcastius network, baby.
It's a network.
Yeah. Podcastius. Just loop that every time.
Okay, Luke, I think you got a speech for us.
Good morning. A few hours from now, aircraft from here will join those from around the world, take part in the greatest aerial battle in the history of mankind. Mankind. That word should have new meaning for all of us. Perhaps it's fate that today is the 4th of July, and this day will no longer be an American holiday, but the day that the whole world said in one voice, "We will not go quietly into the night. We will not surrender without a fight. We're going to live on." Today, we celebrate our Independence Day. I think I cut a little bit there, but it's fine.
Hail Hinkle.
Okay, I can cite that time. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you as always. I should have a quick
All right, yeah.
wizard list. You guys, yeah, we're having a Christmas. Hopefully, we're having our Christmas movie with no Christmas tomorrow. Actually, we have to in any case because I'm actually going to put it out when I get home.
Well, it's I've watched it.
What time are we recording that?
That's at 8:30.
Are you guys free in the hour prior to that?
You want to start at 7:30?
No, I don't have a game show to go out tomorrow either.
Oh, you
Oh.
want us to come game with you? Okay, yeah, I could do
Sure,
that.
I'm down.
Sure.
Do either of you want to host, or should I make something?
Oh man, fuck. I think I could come up with something. Jesus. If you've got something, then you do it. I'm just like,
I haven't got anything prepared. I would have to make something today, but I've got time while I'm at work.
Yeah, I kind of have to do my taxes. So if you've
All right,
got
yeah, I'll
something-
put something together.
I've been working on a game show for like the last year, but I just haven't like fucking done the legwork, and I think it would confuse the shit out of Matt, everything that I'm working on.
Okay, that's right.
All right,
Involves
save it, Joy. You can
knowing
get the rest of
games.
us on it then.
Yeah. Like I don't know. Yeah.
And Mike, I'll get back to you. I think this is the last one we specifically talked about, but of course we would love to have you do some more movies. So I'll maybe send you what our next 6 months of what we're doing and see if anything.
Well, yeah, we've got. Just send him the Google Doc so that he can stick his own name on anything he wants.
Oh yeah, good thinking. Okay, I'll send you.
That's why I
Google
made
Doc.
that.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Good to have you back
good to
for
speak to you again.
multiple Hitler episodes.
I don't want this to be my thing,
Well,
because
okay,
there's
well,
that
that's
stereotype of guys who are like obsessed with World War II, and that's not me.
Yeah.
But yeah, now I just realized this is kind of the second World War II-esque film that
I
volunteered for.
deliberately
Hitler
waited to
correspondent Mike Richards.
I waited for that. I saved that joke until we were done with the episode deliberately. I could have just been like, "Hey, World
And then
War
we can
II
just do some more like on the Roman Empire and
Yep.
everything else that guys think about all the time.
Yeah,
We've already got some takers for Das Boot, so we can't continue your World War II run, unfortunately.
Oh, that's quite all right.
3-hour movie. Speaking of 3-hour movies.
I mean, at least you got good list. I don't know. Is there a bad list World War II movie?
Well,
on here?
because you got Das Boot. What about that one that where John Bon Jovi was in Das Boot?
U571.
That's the one. Yeah, that one didn't make the filth list, did it? I think it was too good for
That
that.
didn't. And then, of course,
Probably.
there's the
6.6.
the Widowmaker, K-19, the Widowmaker. That's a bummer.
Yeah, Gray Lady
movie.
Down. That's
Yeah.
not World War II though.
It's a 5-timer where I when I was like 22 and working at a summer camp, there was a Russian girl there, and I took her to see that because I have Russian in it, and it's not a good date movie.
You like get off my submarine.
No, that's the one where everyone on the submarine slowly dies of radiation poisoning.
Oh, neat. So it's like that episode of Star Trek Voyager where the Mercury people dissolve slowly.
Something
You
like
like that episode, right?
I do like that episode. That's I actually put that one up as my favorite usually, not
I
completely
like it.
ironically.
It's doom metal and sad as fuck.
Course
I like it.
Oblivion. That and the week after that is the fight where Chakotay boxes in his head and they're trapped in chaotic space. I
That's the one that you like and I don't like.
Yeah, nobody likes that one.
I'm
except
sorry.
me.
I think Robert Beltran can barely act his way out of a paper bag, and I
Maybe
felt
that's why I
that
like him
before.
boxing with himself.
I felt like that before he outed himself as a total scab. But yeah. But I mean, I read a bunch of stuff about it. Apparently, he just didn't read the scripts. He would just show up and not prepare. And like, oh, I wonder why he was like not good compared to everybody else. He just didn't. He hated everything so much he didn't prepare. But like, there you go. I mean, maybe he could have been good if he tried. That's the
Yeah.
when
You take somebody like Frakes who, owned it and, now is probably the most popular actor of any Star Trek series with what they mean to the community. And, Beltran probably had that same opportunity.
Yeah, that's the thing is that, I mean, relatively late in life, I found out that when I've done a lot of like random wacko live stuff. And then there was a thing where I did like a puppet show. Like I was doing live like music and voiceover for a puppet show. And we did rehearsals like every day for a week. And I was just like, God, this is excessive. But by the time we did that many rehearsals, I was like, oh, this is what it feels like to know what you're fucking doing. Like that was a great feeling.
Yeah.
No, that was orchestra practice this past Sunday. We just finished the 20-minute concerto movement. That's let's do it again. Oh my. Straight through another 20 minutes. Yeah.
That's probably a lot harder than what I was doing. I was just doing beep boops and talking through robot voice.
Okay, I'm gonna hit the record then, and